The message came on a frequency humanity had not heard in 200 years. It crackled through the void like a prayer whispered into darkness. Desperate and afraid, Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the Terran command station, his scarred hands clasped behind his back. Beyond the reinforced glass, Earth turned slowly in its endless dance. He had served 40 years in the fleet, fought in 3 wars, and lost count of how many friends he had buried. But this moment felt different. "They are asking for help," Ambassador Taemin said quietly beside him. The diplomat was younger, only 35, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "The Veltharans. After 2 centuries of silence, they are begging us to save them." Hyunwoo did not look away from Earth. "The same ones who called us barbarians? Who put a quarantine around our entire solar system because they feared what we might do. The very same." The Admiral finally turned. His face showed every one of his 52 years. Deep lines crossed his forehead, and a thick scar ran from his left temple to his jaw. A gift from the border wars, when humanity fought itself for the last scraps of Mars. What could possibly scare them enough to come to us? Taemin pulled up a holographic display. Images flickered in the air between them. Vast organic ships, black as space itself, with surfaces that seemed to twist and pulse with terrible life. Worlds stripped bare, their surfaces cracked and bleeding. Entire star systems gone dark. "They call them the Devourers," Taemin explained. "An ancient enemy from the galactic core. The Veltharan coalition has lost 40 worlds in 3 months. Their weapons do not work. Their shields fail. Everything they know about warfare is useless against this threat." Hyunwoo studied the images carefully. He had seen many terrible things in his life, but these creatures were something else entirely. Why us? They have 11 other species in their coalition, advanced civilizations with technology beyond ours. "Because none of them know how to fight a real war," Captain Yuna said, entering the observation deck. She was young for her rank, only 31. But her mind was sharper than any blade. "I accessed their military archives. Want to know what I found?" The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "They have not fought a war in 4,000 years, not a real one. They have border disputes settled by third-party arbitration. They have economic competitions. They have stern diplomatic conversations." Yuna's voice carried contempt. "But war? Actual, brutal, do whatever it takes to survive war? They have forgotten what that even means." Taemin shifted uncomfortably. "The Veltharan delegation arrives in 1 hour. What do we tell them?" Taemin. Before Hyunwoo could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in steady rhythm. A young officer rushed onto the observation deck, his face pale. "Sir, the Veltharans are here. They came through the soul barrier without permission. 3 ships, demanding immediate audience." Hyunwoo felt a cold smile cross his face. So desperate they broke their own quarantine. Interesting. He straightened his uniform. "Let them come. Captain Yuna, join me. Ambassador Taemin, prepare the diplomatic suite." The Veltharans were tall beings, nearly 3 meters high, with 4 arms and crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Their leader was called Fleet Master Orvex, and his colors shifted between deep blue and frightened purple as he stood before the human delegation. "We come in peace," Orvex began, his translation device rendering his clicks and whistles into human speech. "We come in need. We come because we have no other choice. You come because you are dying," Hyunwoo said bluntly. "Sit, tell us everything." For the next hour, Orvex explained. The Devourers had emerged from the galactic core 6 months ago. They consumed everything in their path. Not just resources or territory, but entire civilizations. Their bioships adapted to every weapon fired at them. Energy shields made them stronger. Particle beams fed their growth. Kinetic weapons were absorbed and used to build more ships. "We studied the ancient archives," Orvex continued, his colors now a sickly green. "There are records from 10 million years ago. References to a species from a small yellow star. A war species. Your people were listed as too dangerous for galactic society because your entire evolutionary history was violence. You fought each other for millions of years. You conquered your own world through endless warfare. Captain Yuna leaned forward. And you dismissed those records as exaggerations. Called them propaganda, from a primitive era. Orvex's colors flashed with shame. Yes. We thought no species could truly be so violent. So creative in destruction. We thought the records were wrong. They were not wrong, Hyunwoo said quietly. Taemin cleared his throat. What exactly do you want from us? Your help. Your weapons. Your knowledge. Orvex's forearms spread in supplication. We will give you anything. Technology. Resources. Territory. Just save us from the Devourers. Captain Yuna was already working on her datapad. Her fingers flew across the screen, running tactical simulations. After several minutes, she looked up. I have preliminary analysis. The Devourer bioships use adaptive armor. They learn from each attack and counter it. But their adaptation takes time, maybe 30 seconds per weapon type. So? Taemin asked. So they have never faced kinetic weapons, actual physical projectiles, bullets, missiles, railguns. The civilized galaxy abandoned those technologies 5,000 years ago because they were too crude. Yuna's eyes were bright, with dark excitement. The Devourers have never learned to counter them because no one uses them anymore. Except us, Hyunwoo finished. We still have nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological agents. Every terrible thing civilized species locked away in museums. We kept ready for war. Orvex's colors flickered with horror and hope mixed together. You would use such things? Against the Devourers? The Admiral stood. He walked to the observation window and looked out at Earth again. Humanity's cradle. The world they had nearly destroyed a dozen times before finally learning to control themselves. Every city down there held monuments to terrible wars. Every museum displayed weapons that had killed millions. Humanity had not forgotten. They remembered every war, every weapon, every brutal lesson. We will help you, Hyunwoo said. But we have conditions. First, complete military autonomy. My fleet answers to no one but me. Second, full access to all intelligence on the Devourers. Third, when this is over, the quarantine ends. Humanity rejoins galactic society as equals. Done. Orvex said immediately. All of it. Whatever you need. Hyunwoo turned back to the Veltheron. Then send your military observers to Mars orbit. In 3 days, we will show you something the civilized galaxy thought was myth. We will show you the fleet written in legends. After the Veltharans left, Taemin approached the Admiral. Are you certain about this? Once we unleash our weapons, the galaxy will never see us the same way again. Good, Hyunwoo replied. Fear is a better foundation for respect than pity. He looked at Captain Yuna. Begin the activation protocols. Wake up the mythic fleet. Yuna saluted with a fierce smile. Yes, sir. Time to remind the galaxy why they were afraid of us. As she left to begin the work, Hyunwoo remained at the window. Somewhere out in the dark between the stars, an ancient enemy was consuming civilizations, and now they would face something they had never encountered before. They would face humanity at war. The Terra Nova shipyards had existed in Mars orbit for 300 years. Most species believed it was where humanity built their small defensive fleet. A few dozen ships to guard their lonely solar system. The galaxy thought humans were contained, limited, carefully watched. The galaxy was wrong. Fleet engineer Dong-wook waited as the massive bay doors began to open. He was a compact man with grease-stained hands and eyes that sparkled with dangerous pride. Behind him, a dozen Veltheron observers stood in their environmental suits, their crystalline skin flickering with curiosity and concern. What you are about to see, Dong-wook said calmly, is humanity's true fleet. We call it the Mythic Fleet. Every ship is named after legendary vessels from our history. Every design carries the tactical knowledge of our greatest warriors. We were told your fleet numbered 70 ships, one Veltharan said. All defensive in nature. Dong-wook smiled. We lied. The bay doors finished opening, and the Veltharans fell silent. Before them stretched a fleet that defied belief. 200 warships hung in perfect formation, each one massive beyond anything the Veltharans had ever built for combat. They were not sleek like advanced galactic vessels. They were brutal, functional, designed with only one purpose in mind. The Bismarck-class dreadnoughts, Dong-wook announced as lights illuminated the first group of ships, 40 vessels. Each one carries kinetic artillery capable of firing tungsten rods at 30% the speed of light. When these rods hit, they release energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. But unlike energy weapons, there is no warning. No heat signature to detect. Just mass and velocity. A Veltharan stepped forward, his colors shifting to shocked orange. But kinetic weapons are inefficient. They require enormous power to accelerate. They are wasteful. They are unpredictable. Dong-wook corrected. Your adaptive enemies have never faced them. They will die wondering what hit them. He moved to the next section of the yard. The Yamato carriers. 30 ships. Each one launches 5,000 guided missiles, nuclear warheads, conventional explosives, electromagnetic pulse weapons, chemical payloads. We kept every missile type humanity ever designed. When a Yamato opens fire, the sky itself becomes death. Nuclear weapons were banned by the Galactic Convention 4,000 years ago. Another Veltharan protested weakly. We never signed that convention, Dong-wook replied. You quarantined us, remember? We kept building weapons because we knew, someday, someone would need them. The tour continued through the yards. The Enterprise strike groups with their electromagnetic railguns. The Mongol raider squadrons built for speed and surprise attacks. The Spartan vanguard, heavy ships with reinforced armor, designed for ramming and boarding enemy vessels. Boarding? A Veltharan asked, horrified. You send living beings onto enemy ships during combat? Well, of course, Dong-wook said. Sometimes you need to take something intact. Sometimes you need to deliver a payload that cannot be stopped by point defense. And sometimes you need to show the enemy that nowhere is safe. Deep in the Soul Archives, historian Nari stood before a holographic display showing human military history. Around her, young Veltharan military officers sat in uncomfortable silence as she explained the philosophy behind the mythic fleet. Every ship class is named after legendary vessels from our past, Nari said. Her voice was gentle, but her words cut deep. The Bismarck was a battleship from our Second World War. Nearly impossible to sink, it took dozens of ships and hundreds of aircraft to destroy it. The Yamato was the largest battleship ever built, with guns so powerful they could destroy targets over 40 kilometers away. One Veltharan raised a hand. But why preserve such old designs? Surely modern technology makes them obsolete? Nari smiled sadly. You misunderstand. We did not preserve the ships themselves. We preserved the thinking behind them. The Bismarck teaches us that some things must be built to endure punishment, to keep fighting when everything says you should die. The Yamato teaches us that overwhelming firepower ends battles before they truly begin. She pulled up images of ancient human armies. Mongol horsemen sweeping across continents. Spartan warriors holding impossible positions against overwhelming odds. Aircraft carriers projecting power across entire oceans. Humans study war, Nari continued. We analyze every battle, every victory, every defeat. We learn from them. We teach our children about them. Not to glorify violence, but to ensure we are never unprepared when violence comes to us. A young Veltharan officer spoke up, his colors shifting nervously. But is this not barbaric? To spend so much effort on destruction? Is it barbaric to prepare for a storm? Nari asked. To build strong shelters before the winds come? We learned hard lessons across thousands of years. The galaxy calls us violent. They are correct. But they mistake our nature for our choice. We choose to be ready, so that when evil comes, as it always does, we can protect not just ourselves, but others. Commander Ji-ho was humanity's best test pilot. He had flown every experimental vessel the fleet had ever produced. Now he stood in the briefing room with the Veltharan military observers, preparing to show them what the mythic fleet could do. "We will run a simulation," Ji-ho explained. "Our sensors have analyzed the Devourer bioships from the data you provided. We have created a replica in the testing zone. Watch carefully." The Veltharans gathered around the holographic display. In the testing zone, a computer-generated Devourer bioship floated in space. It was massive, easily 3 kilometers long, with the same pulsing organic armor that had destroyed so many Veltharan vessels. A Spartangent-class vessel appeared on the display. It was only 500 meters long, tiny compared to the bioship. "This is insane," one Veltharan muttered. "That ship is 7 times smaller. It cannot possibly." The Spartan accelerated. Its engines burned at maximum power. It did not fire weapons. It did not launch missiles. It simply aimed itself at the bioship and kept accelerating. "What is it doing?" a Veltharan shouted. "Ramming speed," Ji-ho said calmly. The Spartan struck the bioship at tremendous velocity. Its reinforced prow punched through the organic armor like a knife through flesh. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the bioship's surface. Before the Devourers could react, armored soldiers poured out of the Spartans' boarding ramps. They moved through the wounded bioship with brutal efficiency, their weapons spitting chemical fire and explosive rounds. 3 minutes later, the bioship stopped moving. Its surface turned gray. Dead, the Veltharans stared in shocked silence. "You willingly board enemy vessels," one finally said. "You send living soldiers into the heart of enemy ships. This is suicide." Ji-ho shook his head. "This is warfare. Sometimes the only way to kill something is to cut out its heart. We have soldiers willing to do that. Do you?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Captain Yuna had begun training mixed tactical teams, humans and Veltharans working together to develop battle strategies. The sessions were not going well. "You need to accept acceptable losses," Yuna said for the 10th time. "In this scenario, we sacrifice 12 ships to destroy a Devourer hive cluster. That is a favorable exchange." The Veltharan tactical officer's colors flashed angry red. 12 ships means 600 crew members. That is not acceptable. "And if we do not destroy the hive cluster, it will spawn 40 more bioships," Yuna countered. "Those ships will kill millions. So which is more acceptable? 600 deaths or millions?" The Veltharan had no answer. Yuna softened her tone slightly. "I know this is hard for you to understand. Your species has lived in peace for so long that you have forgotten the mathematics of war. Every battle is a calculation. Every victory has a price. Humans learned to make these calculations because we had to. We have fought so many wars that we know exactly how much we are willing to pay for victory." "Do humans not value life?" another Veltharan asked quietly. Yuna was silent for a long moment. "We value life more than you can imagine. That is why we are willing to sacrifice some to save many. That is why we study war so carefully. Because every death in battle is a failure of preparation. Every soldier we lose is a son, a daughter, a friend we failed to protect by not being ready enough." She pulled up the training schedule. "We have 2 weeks before the fleet launches. By then, you will understand how humans fight. You will understand why the galaxy feared us. And you will understand why you need us now." Admiral Hyunwoo watched the fleet preparations from his command ship. Engineer Dong Wook's report showed all systems ready. Historian Nari had completed cultural briefings for the alien observers. Commander Ji-ho had demonstrated the fleet's capabilities. Captain Yuna was beating tactical doctrine into the Veltharan officers. Everything was proceeding according to plan. 200 ships, his second officer said quietly beside him, against an enemy that destroyed a galactic civilization. "Is it enough?" Hyunwoo looked out at the mythic fleet. Each ship represented thousands of years of human warfare evolution. Each captain had studied the great battles of history. Each crew member had trained in tactics the civilized galaxy thought were barbaric myths. It will have to be, he said. Because if the Devourers learn how humans fight and adapt, nothing will be enough. The launch day arrived. 200 ships ignited their engines in perfect synchronization. They burned bright against the darkness of space, leaving Mars' orbit in a formation that would have made ancient admirals weep with pride. The mythic fleet was going to war, and the galaxy would learn why humanity had never forgotten how to fight. The threshold system marked the border between Veltheran space and the unknown regions where the Devourers bred. It held one gas giant, 3 moons, and absolutely nothing worth fighting for. That was exactly why Admiral Hyunwoo chose it as his battlefield. The combined fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 200 human ships flanked by 50 Veltheran vessels. On the command bridge of the flagship, Hyunwoo watched his tactical displays with calm focus. 3 Devourer bioships detected, Captain Yuna reported from her station. They are feeding on the gas giant. Estimated mass of each bioship is 3.2 million tons. The Veltheran Fleetmaster Orvex stood beside the Admiral, his crystalline skin flickering with nervous purple light. We should evacuate the system and establish a defensive perimeter. Those 3 ships could spawn dozens more if given time. No, Hyunwoo said simply. Admiral, with respect, we cannot risk the fleet on Fleetmaster Orvex. Hyunwoo interrupted, his voice cold but not unkind. You asked for our help. You will now learn what that actually means. We do not run from 3 ships. We make an example of them. He turned to his communications officer. Activate the Iron Doctrine. All ships to designated positions. Vice Admiral Mireille, begin your approach. In the destroyer squadron positioned behind the 3rd moon, Vice Admiral Mireille smiled at the order. She was 43, compact and fierce, with a reputation for aggressive tactics that made even other humans nervous. Her squadron consisted of 30 Mongol-class raiders, fast attack ships built for speed and deception. All ships, begin harassment pattern 7, Mireille commanded. Make them angry. Make them chase us. The Mongol raiders burst from behind the moon at maximum acceleration. They screamed toward the 3 Devourer bioships, firing railgun rounds and missiles in scattered patterns. The attacks did minimal damage. But that was not the point. The point was to get noticed. The Devourer bioships reacted instantly. Their organic hulls rippled and pulsed as massive weapons formed on their surfaces. Energy beams lanced out, missing the fast-moving raiders by meters. The bioships turned away from the gas giant, orienting on this new threat. They are taking the bait, Mireille reported, keeping her voice steady despite her ship shaking from a near miss. All ships, tactical retreat pattern, lead them to the killing ground. The Mongol raiders scattered like prey fleeing a predator. They dove toward the asteroid belt, firing occasionally to keep the Devourers interested. Behind them, the 3 massive bioships accelerated, their hatred for these tiny stinging insects overriding their caution. Prey animals running, tactical AI Hana observed from her neural link with the flagship. The quantum intelligence spoke with perfect calm. Predator psychology suggests the Devourers will pursue. Probability of ambush success now at 87%. Hyunwoo watched the tactical display. The Devourers were entering the debris field exactly as predicted. All Bismarck units, maintain silent running. Deep within the asteroid belt, 40 Bismarck-class dreadnoughts waited in perfect stillness. Their reactors were powered down to minimal levels. Their weapons were cold. They looked like nothing more than large asteroids themselves. The Devourers charged into the belt, following the Mongol raiders. They were so focused on their fleeing prey that they never detected the predators waiting in the rocks. Now, Hyunwoo said quietly, 40 dreadnoughts came alive at once. Their reactors surged to full power. Their massive railguns, oriented on the 3 bioships, tungsten rods, each one weighing 20 tons, accelerated to 30% the speed of light in magnetic rails 300 meters long. The rods hit before the Devourers even knew death was coming. At point 3C, The kinetic energy was devastating. The first bioship took 17 hits in less than 2 seconds. Its organic armor, designed to adapt to energy weapons, had no defense against simple mass and velocity. The tungsten rods punched clean through, creating massive cavities that vented atmosphere and biomass into space. The second bioship tried to turn, tried to flee. It took 12 hits. Its surface cracked like an eggshell. Internal structures ruptured. It began to die. The third bioship actually managed to activate its energy shields. The advanced barrier that had turned aside, particle beams and plasma weapons for months, sprang to life around the massive vessel. The tungsten rods passed through the shield as if it did not exist. Kinetic energy did not care about energy barriers. 23 hits. The third bioship simply came apart, its mass scattering across the debris field in a growing cloud of frozen organic matter. Orvex stood on the flagship bridge, his colors shifting through shock white to disbelief. They are dead, all three. In less than 10 seconds. Phase 1 complete, Yuna reported. All three bioships critically damaged, but still showing minimal life signs. Begin Phase 2, Hyunwoo ordered. From positions above and below the debris field, 15 Yamato-class carriers appeared. Their launch bays opened, revealing thousands of missiles in their racks. Saturation bombardment protocol, the Yamato wing commander announced. Nuclear payloads armed, firing. 5,000 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously. They streaked toward the dying bioships in a beautiful and terrible display of human engineering. The Devourers tried to activate point defense systems, tried to spawn fighter organisms, tried to do anything to stop the incoming death. Nothing worked. The first wave of missiles struck. 50 megaton warheads detonated in carefully calculated patterns. The nuclear fire consumed everything. When the radiation cleared, one bioship was simply gone, vaporized. The other two were drifting wrecks, their organic structures blackened and ruined. Two still showing residual neural activity, Hana reported. They attempt to regenerate. Phase 3, Hyunwoo said. Boarding teams, you are cleared to engage. This was the part that disturbed the Veltherons most. From the Spartangan-class assault ships, boarding parties launched. Humans in heavy armor, carrying weapons that seemed primitive compared to galactic technology. Chemical weapons, flamethrowers, explosive charges, tools designed not for elegance, but for brutality. The boarding teams cut through the damaged bioship hulls and entered the dying vessels. Inside, they found organic corridors that pulsed weakly with fading life. Chambers filled with eggs and larvae. Neural clusters that controlled the ship functions. The humans showed no mercy. They burned everything. Chemical weapons flooded compartments. Explosives collapsed entire sections. Flamethrowers purified every chamber they found. This was not just killing. This was ensuring nothing could be recovered. Nothing could regenerate. Nothing could ever threaten anyone again. Commander Sang-woo led one boarding team deep into the second bioship's core. His scanner showed a massive neural cluster ahead, still trying to coordinate regeneration efforts. Target identified, he reported, deploying chemical payload. His team set up canisters in a circle around the neural cluster. When they activated, toxic compounds filled the chamber. The neural cluster writhed and screamed in frequencies that hurt human ears even through helmet protection. Then it died. Bioship. 2 confirmed dead, Sang-woo announced. All neural activity ceased. 20 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 3 devourer bioships that had consumed entire civilizations were destroyed. Human casualties, 0. Damaged ships, 3 with minor hull breaches from debris impact. Orvex sat in a chair on the flagship bridge, his colors pale and uncertain. I do not understand. You destroyed them so easily. Why did we fail for months while you succeeded in minutes? Captain Yuna turned to face him. Because you fought them the way civilized species fight wars. You tried to disable them. You used weapons designed to minimize collateral damage. You pulled back when things got difficult. She gestured to the tactical display showing the debris field where 3 bioships used to exist. We did not try to disable them. We tried to obliterate them. We used weapons designed for maximum destruction. We pushed forward until nothing remained but ash and memory. But this is barbaric, another Veltheran officer protested. The nuclear weapons alone will contaminate this system for decades. This system has nothing in it but a gas giant and rocks, Hyun-woo said. No colonies. No life. Nothing worth preserving. That is why we chose it. We created a kill zone where we could use every terrible weapon in our arsenal, without concern for collateral damage. He stood and walked to the main viewing port. In the distance, debris still floated through space, backlit by the system's distant sun. This is what the Iron Doctrine means. You identify a battlefield that favors your strengths. You lure the enemy into that battlefield through deception. You hit them with overwhelming force from an unexpected angle. Then you ensure they can never threaten anyone again. Tactical AI Hana projected herself on the holographic display. Her avatar appeared as a young woman with calculating eyes. Analysis complete. The Devourers will adapt to our tactics. The element of surprise is now gone. Future engagements will be more difficult. How much more difficult? Yuna asked. Estimate that future bioships will deploy counter-kinetic defenses within 48 hours. They will show caution entering debris fields within 72 hours. Nuclear tolerance will increase within 1 week. Hana's voice carried no emotion. Recommendation: increase aggression. Strike before they fully adapt. Hyun-woo nodded slowly. How many bioships in the Devourer main swarm? Long-range scans suggest approximately 10,000 units converging on Veltheran core systems, Hana replied. Estimated arrival: 17 days. The bridge fell silent. 10,000 bioships. Even with the mythic fleet's advantages, those odds were impossible. Admiral, Orvek said quietly. Perhaps we should evacuate what we can. Fall back to... No. Hyun-woo's voice cut through the bridge like a blade. We did not come here to manage defeat. We came here to achieve victory. He looked at each of his officers in turn. Yuna stood ready. The weapons officers waited. Even the Veltheran observers seemed to straighten slightly. Find me the Corvin expanse, Hyun-woo ordered. The narrow passage through the nebulae where the swarm must pass to reach Veltheran space. I want full tactical analysis within 6 hours. What are you planning? Captain Yuna asked. Though her smile suggested she already knew. Admiral Hyun-woo looked at the debris field one last time. 3 bioships destroyed in 10 minutes. A victory to remind the galaxy what humanity could do. But 10,000 more were coming. And for those, he would need to do something the civilized galaxy would never forgive. I am planning, he said softly, to show the Devourers what happens when you threaten a species that never forgot how to wage total war. The Corvin Expanse was a corridor of stable space between 2 massive nebulae. It stretched for 3 light-years, narrow enough that any fleet passing through would be forced into a predictable path, perfect for an ambush, perfect for a massacre. Admiral Hyun-woo stood before the holographic display showing the expanse in detail. Around him, his senior officers gathered. Captain Yuna studied tactical projections. Engineer Dong-wook reviewed weapon specifications. Commander Sang-woo checked troop deployment plans. And beside them all, Veltheran Counselor Thren watched with growing horror. This is your plan? Thren asked, his crystalline skin flickering angry red. You intend to collapse an entire sector of space? Not the entire sector. Hyun-woo corrected calmly. Just the Corvan expanse. We will use concentrated nuclear detonations at precise points in the surrounding nebulae. The chain reaction will destabilize the corridor for approximately 6 hours, long enough to trap the Devourer swarm inside unstable space. This could kill billions of organisms in the nebulae ecosystem, Thren protested. It violates 17 galactic conventions on environmental preservation. It could create spatial anomalies that persist for centuries. Hyun-woo met the counselor's gaze without flinching. It will also destroy 10,000 Devourer bioships before they reach your core worlds. Tell me, counselor, which concerns you more? Nebula organisms or the survival of your civilization? Thren's colors flashed through rapid patterns. Anger, fear, shame. Finally, they settled on resigned gray. You knew we could not refuse. You knew we would accept any price to survive. Yes, Hyunwoo said simply. That is why you came to us. Because you needed someone willing to pay prices you cannot imagine. Captain Yuna pulled up the battle plan. The Gauntlet Protocol has 3 stages. Stage 1. We position the fleet at the far end of the expanse. When the Devourer swarm enters, we engage them directly. This draws them deeper into the corridor. You will use yourselves as bait, Thren said quietly. Stage 2. Yuna continued without acknowledging the comment. Half our fleet consists of AI-controlled vessels, programmed with kamikaze protocols. They will ram bioships or position themselves for optimal explosive yield. The Devourers will focus on these threats, while missing the real danger. Engineer Dong-wook stepped forward. I have modified 100 ships with self-destruct systems. Each one carries enough nuclear material to create a localized stellar event. They will die, but they will take many bioships with them. 100 ships, Thren repeated. You are willing to sacrifice 100 vessels in a single battle? They are automated, Dong-wook replied. No crew, just weapons platforms designed to serve one final purpose. Better 100 ships than 100 worlds. Stage 3. Hyunwoo finished. When approximately 70% of the swarm is inside the expanse, we detonate 300 nuclear warheads in the nebulae. The chain reaction collapses the corridor. Everything inside dies. The room fell silent. Even the human officers looked uncomfortable with the scale of destruction being proposed. This was not just a battle plan. It was systematic annihilation. What if it does not work? Thren asked. What if the Devourers do not enter the expanse? What if they detect the trap? Then we fight them in open space and lose. Hyunwoo said bluntly. This is our best chance. Our only chance. If the gauntlet fails, the war is over. Tactical AI Hana materialized in the holographic display. Long-range sensors detect the Devourer swarm entering monitored space. Current distance: 4 light-years. Estimated time to Corvin expanse: 36 hours. Hyunwoo looked at each officer. You have your assignments. Begin deployment. And remember, we fight not just for humanity or the Veltherons. We fight to prove that sometimes the only way to preserve life is to master death. The fleet moved into position over the next day. The mythic fleet spread across the far end of the Corvin expanse. The automated vessels took positions throughout the corridor, their AI systems loaded with sacrifice protocols. In the nebulae on either side, small teams deployed nuclear warheads at calculated points. Captain Yuna led the boarding operation preparations. Her teams would not just fight from ships this time. They would board bioships during active combat, turning the Devourer's own vessels into weapons against the swarm. This is insane, one Veltheron observer said as he watched humans preparing boarding pods. You are going to launch living beings into the middle of the largest space battle in galactic history. Commander Sang-woo looked up from checking his armor seals. Yes. Because bioships are vulnerable from inside. Because sometimes the only way to kill a giant is to cut out its heart. Because we are humans, and this is what we do. The Veltheron had no response. 36 hours passed quickly. Long-range sensors showed the Devourer swarm approaching. 10,000 bioships moving in a formation that blocked out stars. The largest concentration of hostile forces the galaxy had seen in recorded history. All ships report ready, Yuna announced from her station on the flagship. Automated vessels confirm kamikaze protocols active. Nuclear deployment teams report warheads in position. Hyunwoo sat in his command chair, fingers steepled in thought. This was the moment. Everything humanity had prepared for. Every weapon they had built. Every tactical doctrine they had studied. All of it led to this battle. Open fleet-wide channel, he ordered. When the light indicated every ship could hear him, Hyunwoo spoke. His voice was calm but carried absolute authority. "All ships. This is Admiral Hyun-woo. In a few minutes, we will face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations. They are many. We are few. They are ancient. We are young. They have consumed worlds. We have only our wits and our weapons." He paused, letting his words settle. "But they have never faced humanity at war. They have never encountered a species that studied violence for thousands of years. They have never met beings who would sacrifice everything to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Throughout the fleet, crew members listened. On the bridge of each ship, captains straightened. In the automated vessels, AI systems processed the speech and found no tactical value, yet recorded it anyway. "We are the fleet written in legends," Hyun-woo continued. "Today, we write a new legend. Today, we show the galaxy why they feared us. Today, we show the Devourers why they should have stayed in the dark." The Devourer swarm entered the Corvin expanse. "All ships, engage," Hyun-woo commanded. The mythic fleet opened fire with everything. Railguns spat tungsten death. Missile carriers launched their payloads. Energy weapons lit up the corridor. The bioships at the front of the swarm died instantly. Overwhelmed by firepower they could not counter fast enough, but there were 10,000 of them. For every bioship destroyed, 10 more pushed forward. "Automated vessels, begin sacrifice protocols," Yuna ordered. Throughout the expanse, 100 AI-controlled ships accelerated toward the swarm. They were not trying to survive. They were trying to die in the most destructive way possible. The first automated vessel rammed a bioship at maximum velocity, then detonated its reactor. The explosion vaporized both vessels and damaged a dozen nearby bioships. Then another detonated, and another, and another. The automated fleet transformed into a series of localized stars, each one burning for seconds before collapsing. The Devourers tried to adapt, tried to defend, but kinetic impacts followed by nuclear detonations gave them no time to counter. "Swarm depth inside expanse now at 60%, Hana reported. "Optimal collapse point approaching." Commander Song-woo launched his boarding teams. Hundreds of assault pods shot toward the largest bioships. Many were destroyed by defensive fire. Many more made it through, punching into organic hulls and disgorging soldiers who carried fire and fury into the enemy's heart. Sang-woo himself led a team deep into a bioship the size of a small moon. His scanner showed a neural cluster 2 kilometers into the vessel's core. "All teams, mark your targets. When you find the brain, burn it." His team fought through organic corridors that tried to seal them in, through defense organisms that attacked with tooth and claw. They used flamethrowers to clear paths. They used explosives to blast through barriers. They moved with brutal efficiency toward the bioship's center. When they reached the neural cluster, Sang-woo did not hesitate. Fire, chemical weapons flooded the chamber. The massive brain writhed as poison destroyed its neural pathways. The bioship's systems began failing. Its weapons went silent. Its engines died. Across the expanse, dozens of boarding teams reported similar success. The largest bioships were being killed from within. "Swarm depth at 71%, Hana announced. "Recommend implementing collapse protocol." Hyun-woo looked at the tactical display. 7,000 Devourer bioships were inside the expanse. The remaining 3,000 were still entering. This was as good as it would get. "All ships, pull back to safe distance," he ordered. "Detonate the nebulae." In the nebulae on either side of the Corvin expanse, 300 nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously. The explosions were precisely calibrated, positioned at weak points in the nebula structure. The effect was catastrophic. Chain reactions ripped through the nebulae. Gas clouds compressed and exploded. Gravitational anomalies formed and collapsed. The very fabric of space seemed to tear along the edges of the expanse. The Devourer bioships tried to flee. Those at the rear of the swarm managed to escape, but the 7,000 inside the corridor were trapped as space itself became their enemy. Gravity wells shifted violently, crushing bioships like insects. Radiation storms at levels impossible in normal space burned through organic armor. Spatial tiers opened and closed, severing bioships in half. The destruction lasted 6 hours. When it finally settled, the Corvin expanse was a graveyard. 7,000 Devourer bioships, reduced to drifting organic debris. The greatest military victory in galactic history achieved in a single day. But the cost was visible in every officer's face. Counselor Thren looked at the devastated corridor and understood what price humanity had paid. "You destroyed an entire region of space," he said quietly. "You killed everything in that corridor." "Yes," Hyunwoo replied, "and we saved your civilization doing it." Thren's colors flickered between gratitude and horror. "The galaxy will never forgive this." Captain Yuna turned to face him. "The galaxy does not need to forgive us. They need to remember that when they face extinction, there is a species willing to do what must be done." As the mythic fleet regrouped, Hyunwoo received casualty reports. 23 human ships lost. 4,000 crew members dead. Numbers that would have been catastrophic in any other battle. But compared to the alternative, they were acceptable. "The remaining Devourers?" he asked. 3,000 bioships retreated to dark space, Hana reported. "They flee. Probability of return engagement? Minimal. The Devourers have learned fear." Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Let them fear. Let the entire galaxy know what happens when they threaten species under our protection." The battle was over. The war was won. But the legend was just beginning. 3 months after the Battle of Corvin Expanse, the Galactic Council convened on Veltheron Prime. 12 species gathered in the grand chamber that floated above the capital city. Held aloft by technologies humanity still did not fully understand. But today, technology was not the question. Today, the question was, what to do with the species that had saved them all. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the center of the chamber, alone. His dress uniform was simple compared to the elaborate garments worn by the alien counselors. At 53 years old, he looked tired. 3 months of battle, of decisions, of carrying the weight of thousands of deaths, had aged him visibly, but his eyes were still sharp, still ready. Around him, the counselors debated. Some with gratitude, some with fear, all with the knowledge that their galaxy had changed forever. The humans violated 17 major conventions, Counselor Thren argued, his colors shifting between diplomatic blue and uncertain gray. They used weapons banned for 4,000 years. They destroyed an entire region of space. They showed brutality that civilized species abandoned long ago. They also saved 40 billion lives. Another counselor countered. This one was Veltheron. Her colors warm with gratitude. My homeworld would be ash without their intervention. My children would be dead. A third counselor spoke, his species resembling crystalline spiders. The issue is not what they did, but what they represent. Humanity has proven they can wage war at a level we cannot match. What happens when they turn those weapons on us? Admiral Hyunwoo listened to it all without comment. He had been instructed not to speak until directly addressed. Ambassador Tae-min stood in the observer section, ready to handle diplomacy. But Hyunwoo knew that words would not matter here. The decision had already been made in the hearts and minds of these beings. He was simply waiting for them to acknowledge it. Finally, the senior counselor, an ancient being whose species had been in space for 50,000 years, gestured for silence. Admiral Hyunwoo, of Terra, you are recognized. Speak your truth to this council. Hyunwoo stepped forward. He did not bow. He did not show deference. He simply stood as he was, a soldier who had done his duty. Counselors, he began, his voice carrying through the chamber. You call us brutal. You say we violated conventions. You fear what we might become. All of this is true. He paused, letting them absorb his honesty. But let me tell you what else is true. When the Devourers came, your fleets failed. Your weapons were useless. Your tactics accomplished nothing. 40 worlds died while you debated the proper response. Some counselors shifted uncomfortably. The truth hurt. Humanity did not debate, Hyunwoo continued. We acted. We used weapons you banned because they worked. We employed tactics you call barbaric because they achieved victory. We sacrificed ships and soldiers because the alternative was extinction. He looked each counselor in the eye as he spoke. You want to know what humanity represents? We represent the memory you all chose to forget. We remember that peace is only possible when those who threaten it face consequences. We remember that sometimes survival requires terrible choices. We remember that war is not about fighting fair. It is about fighting to win. The chamber was silent. You can fear us, Hyunwoo said quietly. You can isolate us again. You can pretend we are monsters. But remember this. When the next threat comes, when your civilizations face extinction again, you will look to the darkness between stars and hope that the monsters you fear are willing to save you once more. He stepped back, indicating he was finished. The senior counselor studied him for a long moment. You speak hard truths, Admiral. Perhaps truths we needed to hear. He turned to the other counselors. We will vote. But first, I would hear from those who fought beside the humans. Fleetmaster Orvex rose. The Veltheran officer's colors were steady green now, the color of respect. I fought in the Battle of Corvin Expanse. I watched humans sacrifice their ships to save mine. I saw soldiers board enemy vessels knowing they would likely die. I witnessed tactical brilliance that won impossible victories. He paused. I also witnessed brutality that disturbed me. Methods I would never have considered. Weapons I thought were myths. But I am alive because of those things. My species survives because humans remembered what we forgot. Another voice spoke. Commander Sang-woo, representing the human ground forces. Counselors. I led boarding teams into the heart of bioships. My soldiers died in those corridors. They died knowing their families would never see them again. They died because it was necessary. He looked at the counselors. We do not enjoy war. We do not celebrate death. But we accept both as realities of existence. That is what makes us different from you. Not that we are more violent, but that we are willing to acknowledge violence when it is necessary. Captain Yuna spoke next, now wearing the insignia of Rear Admiral. At 32, she was the youngest flag officer in human history. The mythic fleet was not built to conquer. It was built to protect. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic exists for one purpose. To ensure that when evil comes, good has the tools to fight back. The council listened. They heard testimony from Veltheran survivors, from human soldiers, from tactical AI Hana, whose cold analysis showed that humanity's methods, while brutal, were statistically optimal for the situation faced. Finally, they voted. The result was not unanimous, but it was clear. The quarantine would be lifted. Humanity would be welcomed into galactic society with full rights and privileges, but with conditions. The mythic fleet would remain active as a rapid response force for galactic emergencies. Human military advisors would be made available to species requesting them, and humanity would establish a military academy to train the next generation of galactic defenders in the tactics that had saved civilization. But humanity would also face oversight. A council of mixed species would monitor their military activities. Weapons of mass destruction would require authorization before deployment, and humans would agree to teach not just warfare, but restraint. It was a compromise. Neither side got everything they wanted. But both sides got what they needed. Ambassador Tae-min finalized the treaty documents in the following weeks. The Galactic Integration Accord, they called it. Hundreds of pages of legal language that boiled down to one simple truth. Humanity was no longer alone. In the Soul Archives, historian Nari completed her book. The Fleet Written in Legends. How Humanity Saved the Galaxy. By refusing to forget its wars. She dedicated it to every soldier who had died in the Battle of Corvin Expanse. The book became required reading in every galactic military academy within 6 months. Species that had not fought a war in millennia studied human tactics, not to become more brutal, but to understand that readiness prevented conflict. 1 year after the Devourer War, a young human woman named Ji graduated from the Earth Military Academy. She was 22, brilliant, and determined to serve. Her assignment, the UTS Times Sol Asterisk, the new flagship of the mythic fleet. As she boarded the vessel for the first time, she walked corridors lined with plaques. Each one honored a legendary ship from human history: Bismarck, Yamato, Enterprise, Mongol, Spartan, hundreds of names representing thousands of years of warfare evolution. But there was also a new section: plaques honoring the ships lost in the Devourer War. 23 vessels, 4,000 crew members, each name recorded so they would never be forgotten. Unji stopped before one plaque in particular: the UTS Times Defiance Asterisk, lost with all hands during the final assault. Her older brother had served on that ship. "We remember," she whispered, touching the plaque gently, "so others can forget." On Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo retired to a small house overlooking the ocean. He was 54 now, with gray in his hair and permanent lines on his face. But he slept well, knowing he had done his duty. He received visitors sometimes: old crew members, Veltharan survivors, students studying military history. He answered their questions honestly, never glorifying what had been done, but never apologizing either. One day, a young Veltharan student asked him the question he had heard 100 times. "Admiral, do you regret the methods you used? The weapons? The casualties?" Hyunwoo looked out at the ocean for a long moment. "I regret every death, every ship lost, every life cut short. I carry those losses with me always." He turned to face the young student. "But I do not regret doing what was necessary. Given the same situation, I would make the same choices, because the alternative was extinction, and I will always choose difficult survival over easy death." The student left thoughtful. Years passed. The mythic fleet grew. New ships joined the ranks, carrying names from human history. The UTS Times Sol Times became legendary in its own right, responding to 17 different emergencies across galactic space. Other species began adopting human military principles. Not all of them, not even most, but enough that warfare itself changed. Conflicts were shorter, more decisive. The galaxy learned that prepared defenders made aggression less appealing. The devourers never returned. Long-range probes sent to dark space found no trace of the surviving bioships. Perhaps they were dead. Perhaps they were hiding. Or perhaps they had simply learned that some species should not be threatened. 20 years after the Battle of Corvin Expanse, Admiral Hyunwoo died peacefully in his sleep. He was 73. His funeral was attended by thousands. Humans and aliens alike came to pay respects to the man who had changed the galaxy. At the service, Rear Admiral Unji, now captain of the Times Sol Asterisk, gave the eulogy. "Admiral Hyunwoo taught us that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of prepared defenders. He showed us that remembering war is the best way to prevent it, and he proved that sometimes the most important thing a civilization can do is maintain the capacity for controlled violence in service of greater good." She looked at the gathering. The mythic fleet continues. New admirals will lead it. New battles will be fought. But everything we do carries his legacy. We remember every war, so the galaxy can forget them all. In orbit above Earth, the mythic fleet held formation during the funeral. 200 ships positioned in perfect arrays. As Hyunwoo's ashes were scattered over the ocean, the fleet fired a salute, not weapons of war this time, but ceremonial charges that lit the sky with brilliant colors. The galaxy watched and remembered. In the decades that followed, humanity's reputation evolved. They were no longer feared as barbarians. They were respected as guardians. The species that remembered violence so that others could forget it. New threats emerged over the years: pirates, rogue nations, ancient evils awakening. Each time, the mythic fleet responded. Each time, they brought not just weapons but the knowledge that some fights require whatever it takes to win. The motto adopted that day in the Corvan Expanse became the motto of not just humanity, but of the entire Galactic Defense Force. We remember every war, so you can forget them all. And in training academies across 12 species, young officers studied the Battle of Corvan Expanse. They learned about kinetic weapons and boarding tactics, about sacrifice and calculated risks, about the Iron Doctrine and the Gauntlet Protocol. But most importantly, they learned why those things existed, not for conquest, not for glory, but for one simple purpose: so that when darkness came, light had the strength to push it back. The fleet written in legends sailed on, forever vigilant, forever ready, forever remembering the lessons that allowed everyone else to forget. And in the archives of every ship, in the memory of every soldier, the story lived on. The story of when aliens asked for help, and humanity commanded a fleet that would be remembered for generations, not for the wars it fought, but for the peace it protected.